Hello and welcome to the Oliveboard platform. My name is Antara Bhoyan, and as you know that we are discussing the class 6th NCERT series, and after class 6 we are going to discuss class 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th, so on. So in today's class we are going to talk about the nature's treasures, everything that we get in our life from day-to-day activities to our energy requirements. Everything comes from nature, whereas some can be classified as the renewable resources, which are, say, replenished and it can be used again and again, like from the sunlight, from the wind energy, from the water energy. Others are non-renewable resources, that is, we have a finite supply of them, and if we do not use them cautiously, if we waste it, if judicial use is not done, in that case, we may run out of these resources like the coal and fossil fuels, etc. So let us begin with our chapter number 11, which is Nature's Treasures. If you want to watch the previous chapters, then please refer to the NCERT playlist. If you want to join the future sessions and if you don't want to miss it, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Let us move ahead. The journey starts with two kids, Bhumi and Surya, who visits their paternal grandmother, and they see that she lives in the Western Ghats, and she enlightens them that, okay, do you know that everything that we get, they are like the treasures from the nature. And in this particular place where we are sitting right now, this place is full of nature's treasures. So one by one, she explains them how this is true and how everything that we get comes from nature. See, if you see in this picture, then there is the streams, there is the wildlife, and all of these things are surrounded in a, say, village environment most of the times. And especially if you are in the Western Ghats, that means you are in a environment hotspot, biodiversity hotspot. So obviously there will be even more variation, right? So one by one, these chapters comes to light. And in chapter 1, you can see that, or in, say, lesson 1 that she gives, you see that she is breathing, she's doing some breathing exercise. And if we observe that, if we breathe in slowly and then if you breathe out, if we do this simple exercise, then we can see that there is a relaxation that we get from the fresh air. This relaxation of the mind, relaxation of the body is instant, if you see. And over a longer period of time, practicing such breathing exercise and getting in more oxygen, filling in the lungs with more oxygen, can be helpful for various other purposes as well. Now this earth is surrounded with air. The earth is actually covered with a blanket of air. Just like we see in the oceans there is water, what we do not see in the land, but we can feel it if it is powerful in the form of wind or a storm. So there is all around us, there is air, right? And if that air moves slowly, calmly, then we say, oh, such a nice breeze. And if it goes violent, we say that, okay, it is a cyclone, or say it is a storm, right? So the air is all around us, and the nature has made a precise mixture for life. How? If we see the composition of air, there is 78% nitrogen, so it is the most abundant gas which is there. And then we have oxygen, 21%. This is essential for most of the living organisms, especially those who are dependent on oxygen. Yes, there are anaerobic bacteria, etc., but then most of the creatures that you see with your eyes, they are using the oxygen. Then there is argon, carbon dioxide and other gases and traces. For example, how much CO2 is there? It is 0.03 to 0.04%, but still you can see the impact of the presence in case of, say, the greenhouse gases. Now coming to the harnessing of the wind. How, if so much air is there present, if there is breeze, if there is wind, if there is storm, why not harness that wind for the energy purpose and save what is, what is going to get over. If we are using coal, coal is going to get over. But if we are using this air, if we are using the, say, windmills, and then in that case we are capturing nothing but the earth's natural energy. So the energy that is used to run the flour mills, pump water, and most importantly, even generate electricity in the large windmill farms. So if you have ever visited the windmill farms, then you will see like these blades are there and they are used to harness the wind energy, and then it can be converted into electricity as well. So after that chapter, the chapter 2 is about the uh, life blood of the earth, or what we can say, if we are not eating food we can still survive, but without water we cannot survive. So water is very precious, okay, and that is why it should not be wasted, because water everywhere, not a drop to drink. Why? Because our planet is blue planet. There is water, but what about the usable fresh water? That is very rare. So if you look into the scenario, 97% of the water which we have here, 90% is saline water in the oceans and in the seas. So this 90% we cannot use it. The usable fresh water is just 3%. And out of this 3% also, if you will see in the form of ice and glacier, there is approximately 69% of this fresh water is actually in the form of ice and glacier. So that is also not usable for us. The rest 30% is in the form of groundwater, and accessible surface water like a river, lakes, etc. is less than 1%. So that is the one which is easily accessible. Otherwise groundwater also, say for example well, etc. are there. So we see that a very small fraction of the earth's water is actually accessible for the human use. So that is why we should ensure that let these freshwater sources which are already limited, let them just exist, let them just be, let us not pollute them, let us not use them for disposing of the industrial wastes or the domestic waste, etc. Let the sewage and this water be separate, and let this, you know, um, scarcity of water not be there on earth, right? Because it is already rare. Also, if we see today's newspaper, then we can see that in Indore there has been death of people due to mixing of the water and the sewage water. So as a result of which there has been death. So to avoid this kind of things, we have to take care of. Then conserving every drop through modern and ancient wisdom. How do we do that? We can use some modern tactics, like if we have this kind of, say today the houses that we build, so we can inbuilt the rainwater harvesting. In the government offices we can do the rainwater harvesting. At present there is this at present what is in news is how the administrative work has been done with respect to water and in rainwater harvesting, and in districts like Barmer it has been on news, and how the awards are being given for this activities. So you see that how this can be done by simply doing the harvesting of the rainwater, where there will be rainfall and then through the roof it can go to the water tanks, and that is how it will finally say enrich, and it will finally fill an underground well. This underground well will then in the future will help for the, say, water requirements. So these are the modern practices where houses in the rooftop itself this harvesting is inbuilt. Now talking about the ancient times, such kind of step wells were made. These are known as baudi or bhav. For example, the Rani ka bhav. Okay, so an age-old Indian practice which is especially in the regions of Rajasthan and Gujarat, and these are designed not only to collect rainwater, but also to capture water seeping from nearby lakes and ponds. As you can see, these are designed in this manner so that it is easy for, say, getting the water as well, and for recharging the water as well. And that is why the height is kept so much. Then the next chapter or the next lesson that she gives is about the engine of life. Everything which we have on earth, what is the ultimate source of energy? The ultimate source of energy for earth is the sun, and the sun. And you see that the green plants, they will do the photosynthesis, they will use up the sunlight for that. If we are drying the clothes in the open, then where does the water goes and evaporates? It is because of the sunlight. So if the sun is there, then the main source of energy to the earth is there, and every other living being is dependent on the sun. If you see the process of photosynthesis, then sunlight is used to convert the basic CO2 and H2O into, say, glucose, C6H12O6, and oxygen. So what happens is the green plants, after that the cow will eat the green plants, and they are running the entire, say, because this grass and this green plants absorbing the sunlight, after this they are running the entire food chain and all the blocks are possible, right? But if the first step is not there, if photosynthesis is not there, then nothing was possible. So they are the autotrophs, the green plants are the autotrophs, they make their own food, and that is how after that from the sun energy they're converting the inorganic substances, and how it is going through the food chain, and how they are making the organic substances. Now we can see in the technical field, the solar panels that are used, they are using the same sunlight, and this time not in the form of food but in the form of electricity. So the sunlight is the ultimate source of energy. The next lesson is about the living centuries. It is about the forest. In many forests, in many villages, there are the sacred forests. And in some, say, even if not a sacred forest, in many forests, there are traditions like you should not collect. People say that you should not collect anything from this forest. So why they say like that? Probably sometimes it is associated to culture and practices, spiritual reasons, and sometimes it is the easy way to protect the forest as well, don't you think so? Because see, if you don't collect anything, the leaves will also fall there itself, it will enrich the soil further with nutrients, then the roots are also in that soil for the tree, and it is holding the soil is being fertile, the animals, they will leave their dung or they will leave their excreta here itself, and that will be used as a fertilizer. So this self-sustained ecosystem is not disturbed if we are not collecting anything from there. Now, how do we classify this? We can classify all the resources on the earth as renewable or non-renewable. As the name indicates, they can be renewed. That is, you can be renew them. You can renew them, they will become new again. Air, if you are harnessing the wind energy, air is coming, you keep on harvesting new wind energy, no problem. Water and the forest, if you say the water, then see the water, it is flowing, you put the harnessing things from one place to another, you can build the dams also, you can put the turbines also, so like this it can be used. Sunlight, put as many solar panel as possible, no problem, sunlight will be there and you will keep on getting the solar energy. So these are the renewable sources, right? So even renewable sources also, sometimes it should be used with some caution. Like if you will build a dam in every, say, x number of distance, then in that case the river might change its course, the river might dry up, there might be problems of erosion, there might be problems of flood, etc., right? So even that has to be used cautiously. And another thing is, obviously building these things will also create some pollution, so that is why we should take care of that as well. How much is needed, based on that we should use the things. Non-renewable sources, they are found in the limited quantities and they are not replenished. It takes thousands and thousands of years to make them. For example, fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, natural gas. So they should be used very judiciously. The minerals, the rocks, then the soil itself. If why soil erosion is such a big problem? Because for the new soil to become new soil, it takes a long period of time. So what are these? Coal, petroleum, etc.? These are nothing but the buried sunshine. If you see all the biomass, the plants, the animals, after they died, or if they are under the ground for various years, after that what you see is your these kind of coal and petroleum. So our dependence on the finite fossil fuels is also high, so we have to take care of that. For example, we have e-vehicles in place of just petrol and diesel vehicles. So coal, petroleum, these are the sources of, say, diesel and petrol and other fuels like the natural gas. And they take millions of years to form because these plants etc has to get buried and then microorganisms has to work and it takes thousands of years. So that is why there is a finite supply, so we should ensure that we are consuming at a standard rate. The rate of production should be matched. If the production is it is taking 1,000 years and consumption is just taking 100 years, then obviously we will run out of them. Then also they causes pollution and that can release the smoke and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which is another problem. So we have seen that how in the village there is the fresh air, there is the clear skies, there is abundance in terms of forests, natural resources, then the wildlife, etc. In the city, sometimes some cities specifically gets more pollution, like Delhi is in news because of the AQI since quite a time now. Then the skyline is hazy and trees are also very less. So when we use fossil fuels in our vehicles, smoke is generated and that creates more pollution. So our responsibility is to conserve, not to consume. Consumption we must do for the need that we have, but more than that, we should take care of conservation of the nature because earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not for every man's greed. With this, let us come to the questions today. Now, every session I'm keeping this multiple choice questions. So go ahead and practice them for the previous sessions as well if you have not done so yet. The text states that about 2/3 of the Earth's surface is covered with water. Why can't we use most of this water for drinking or agriculture? Most of the water is frozen in ice sheets and glaciers. Okay, we have frozen forms as well. Most of the water is located too far underground to access. Most of the water is in oceans and seas and is saline. So we see that 97% is in the seas and is saline. Most of the water is polluted by human activities. So the number one reason out of this is your option number C. After that, there is only remaining 3%, and out of that also 69% is in the form of ice sheets and glacier. So first itself, we have option number C as the correct answer. What is the key difference between renewable and non-renewable resources? Renewable resources can be replenished with a reasonable time, while non-renewable resources cannot. Okay, correct. Renewable resources are always clean, while non-renewable resources cause pollution. Mostly, but not always. Renewable resources are unlimited. No, nothing is unlimited, while non-renewable resources are found in limited quantities. Renewable resources come from nature, while non-renewable resources are also, they also come from nature. So the best answer here is option number A, that is renewable resources can be replenished within a reasonable time while non-renewable resources cannot. Next question, how is soil primarily formed? from decay of fallen leaves and dead animals over a few years, over thousands of years, you can have something near to coal. From dust and particles carried by the wind and deposited in one place, from sediment left behind an overflowing river and lake, you will have probably something like alluvial plains, alluvial soil plains, etc., or flood plains, etc., if it is in the case of flood. From the disintegration of rocks over thousands of years, what you get is your soil. It takes thousands of years. That is why soil erosion is a problem. Otherwise, whatever is being eroded is being deposited. What is the problem? So the problem is it takes thousands of years. What is the primary function of large windmill farms, just as the one in Jaisalmer, Rajasthan? So there are in many other places as well. In Gujarat also there are many windmill farms to put up water from well, deep well for irrigation. You can pull up water by this, okay? The to run flour mills for local communities, that can also be done. To create a gentle breeze for nearby villages, not sure about this. To use the energy of the wind to generate electricity. So if you have a big wind farm, then probably the use is for electricity. That is the first use. Based on the conversation between Bhumi and Surya, how does a cow grazing on grass ultimately get its energy from the sun? The cow absorbs energy directly from the sun's heat while standing in the field. Oh my god, we can just get some vitamin D by doing that. The cow drinks water that has been warmed by the sun, transferring energy. The cow breathes in oxygen and that has been energized by the sun's rays. The cow gets energy by eating grass, which used sunlight to grow and make food. So D is the correct answer, that because the grass has done that job of CO2 plus H2O in the sunlight with the help of the pigment chlorophyll. The grass has done that conversion. Which of the following is an example of non-renewable resources? Air, sunlight, forest, minerals. So air, sunlight and forests are say near to renewable resources, and minerals, coal, petroleum, etc. are non-renewable resources. The text describes traditional water harvesting systems in India such as Bawri and Bhav. What are these structures commonly known in English? So in English, they are known as step wells. They are known as step wells. Canals are like from the main river. If you cut down a stream and bring it to your field for your conveyance, that you can say as a canal. Dams are built for harvesting the water energy of the rivers. And then you also have aqueducts. Which of the following best describes how fossil fuels like petroleum and coal are formed? So they are formed from the remains of plants and microorganisms buried for millions of years. Yes, they're created by the heat of the sun breaking down rocks into liquid and gas. They're formed from minerals that crystallize deep within the Earth's crust. They're produced when rainwater mixes with volcanic ash and solidifies. So here the best answer is that if the plants are there, microorganisms are there, and then in millions of years, what we get is coal petroleum. The Chipko movement in Uttarakhand is a famous example of conservation effect. What action did the local women take to protect the forest? They filed legal petitions to stop the cutting of the trees. They encircled and hugged the trees. Chipko literally means to stick to the trees. So they stick to the trees and they hug them, and that is the Chipko movement. They organize large tree plantation drive. They help a campaign to boycott forest products. So the B here is the correct answer. They encircled and hugged the trees. What is the most abundant gas in air that surrounds the earth? So we see 78% nitrogen is there that surrounds the earth. So with this we have come to the end of chapter number 11 of Class 6th NCERT, the name of the book is Curiosity, and we have done Nature's Treasures. In the next class, we will study chapter number 12, that is Beyond Earth. So until then, take care and stay blessed. Bye-bye.